Jai. All righty. We are here again. Welcome to the evening Bhagavad Gita study, number 33 in the series. So, good to see everybody. So it's just one announcement before we begin and also an announcement at the end. We want to dedicate tonight's class, and we'll mention this at the end of the class, to His Holiness Bhakti Chumarj is in a hospital right now with the coronavirus, and he contracted the coronavirus coming back from India about 10 days ago, 10, 11, 12 days ago. He's coming back from India. So he's in the intensive care unit, and he's on a respirator. So it's a very difficult situation, but he's been getting better over the last 24 hours. So it's first of all, it's a lesson for all of us to be very, very careful in what we do, with traveling, especially those of us who travel overseas. And those of us who don't travel overseas, when you're in a situation where the virus is there, you should use a mask and do social distancing. So just asking everybody to pray for his health and quick recovery. It looks like he'll be in the hospital probably for about 10 more days recovering from the virus. The virus is very serious. Don't take it lightly. All right, so we will start the class, and first we chant Jai Radha Madhava. Jaya Radha Madhava Kunda Bihari Jai Radha Madhava Kunda Bihari Gopi Jana Balaba Girivardhari Gopi Jana Balaba Girivardhari Yashoda Nandana Vraja Jana Ranjana Yashoda Nandana Vraja Jana Ranjana Yamuna Tira Manachari Yamuna Tira Manachari Jaya Radha Madhova Kunya Bihari Jaya Radha Madhova Kunya Bihari Gopi Jana Malaba Girivardhari Gopi Jana Malaba Girivardhari Yashoda Nandana Vraja Jana Ranjana Yashoda Nandana Vraja Jana Ranjana Yamuna Tira Manachari Yamuna Tira Manachari Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Jai Om Vishnupad Paramahamsa Paravatikacharya also Tera Sitashi Shimad His Divine Grace Sabhaya Chalananda Bhaktivedanta Goswami Srila Prabhupada. ISKCON founder Acharya Srila Prabhupada ki jai. Anantakoti Vaishnava Vrinda ki jai. Namacharya Srila Haridas Thakur ki jai. Prem say, O Sri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadha Shivasati Gaur Bhaktivinoda ki jai. Shri Shri Radha Krishna Gopikapada Sayam Kun Radhakunda Giri Govardhan ki jai. Vrindavanam ki jai. Mathuram ki jai. Jagadasami ki jai. Yamunamai ki jai. Shrimati Tulasi Devi ki jai. Samaveda Bhakta Vrinda ki jai. Gaur Premananda Hari 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 Go. All glories the assembled devotees. All glories the assembled devotees. All glories the assembled devotees. All glories to Shri Guru and Gauranga Srila Prabhupada ki jai. Gaur Premananda. Nama Om Vishnu Padaya. Krishna Prastaya Bhutale. Shrimati Bhaktivedanta Swami Namani Namaste Saraswati Devi Gauravati Charni Nivasesha Sunyavadi Paschatya Jai Zatarni Srila Prabhupada ki jai. So Om Ganati Miranda Shagananjana Shlakaya Chakshudan Meditam Yeda Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha. So I offer my respectful obeisances unto the lotus feet of His Divine Grace, A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Srila Prabhupada, who so kindly opened my eyes with a torch, light of knowledge, while I was blinded in the darkness of ignorance. Srila Prabhupada ki jai. So we'll continue with our study of Bhagavad Gita. And we're going to continue with the 4th chapter, text 32, I believe. And we're going to go to the screen sharing on this. Here we go. So, let's clear the screen so I can see it. Okay, text 32. Evam bahu vidayagna vitata brahmano mukhe karma jan viditan sarvan evam gyatva mokshase. Sorry. Evam gyatva vimokshase. Important. Evam, thus, bahu vidaha, various kinds of yajna, sacrifices, vitataha, are spread. Ramanaha of the Vedas, mukhe, through the mouth, karmajan, born of work, vidi, you should know, tan, them, sarvan, all, evam, thus, gatva, knowing, vimoksha, say, you will be liberated. Translation, all these different types of sacrifice are approved by the Vedas, and all of them are born of different types of work. Knowing them as such, you will become liberated. In other words, knowing where each one is situated in the progressive path of spiritual life. There are different steps in spiritual life. And sometimes the yoga processes are described as different steps on the yoga ladder. It's like in a ladder, you got 1 step, 2 steps, 3 steps, and then there's the top of the ladder. So the top of the ladder, the yoga ladder, is Bhakti Yoga according to Krishna in the 6th chapter of the Bhagavad Gita. So, or as they say, a journey begins with a single step. So, anyway, it's better to do something than nothing. So anyway, so Krishna's not decrying all these different types of sacrifice and stuff like that, and they're all different steps to achieve the ultimate goal, which is Krishna consciousness. But if you take Krishna consciousness directly, you don't have to do all the steps. You can take the elevator. Purport by Srila Prabhupada. Different types of sacrifice, as discussed above, are mentioned in the Vedas to suit the different types of worker. They should be workers. Because men are so deeply absorbed in the bodily concept, these sacrifices are so arranged that one can work either with the body, with the mind, or with the intelligence. But all of them are recommended for ultimately bringing about liberation from the body. This is confirmed by the Lord herewith from His own mouth. And so, in other words, Krishna is very merciful. In the 12th chapter, this comes out even more clearly, where Krishna says, always think of me, you can't do that, follow Bhakti Yoga, you can't do that, give the results of your activities, up to me, we can't do that, be detached, there's a whole different things Krishna says if you can't do, okay, at least do something. At least take prasadam. Text 33. Shreyan dravya mayad yajnad jnana yajna parandapa sarvam karma dikha kilam partha jnane parisamapyate. Shreyan, greater dravya mayat, of material possessions, yajnat, then the sacrifice, jnana yajna, sacrifice of knowledge, parantapa, chastiser of the enemies, sarvam, all, karma activities, akilam, in totality, partha, O son of Pitta, jnane, in knowledge, parisamapyate, and, O chastiser of the enemy, the sacrifice performed in knowledge is better than the mere sacrifice of material possessions. That's interesting. After all, O son of Pritha, all sacrifices of work culminate in transcendental knowledge. So in other words, if you do something deliberately to serve Krishna, it's better than doing something accidentally or out of some sentiment, but it's better to have the knowledge of why you're doing what you're doing. That's the point. We often make that point to devotees when they are engaged in different activities, that you should always remember the purpose of what you're doing and knowledge. Don't just do it. If you just do it, it can be a disconnect too. And Krishna mentions that in not Krishna, but Rupa Goswami mentions that in the Nectar of Instruction. He calls that niyam agraha. When you're doing something, but you don't really have the intention or think of why you're doing what you're doing. It's a disconnect. So, anyway, let's read the purport. The purpose of all sacrifices is to arrive at the status of complete knowledge, then to gain release from material miseries, and ultimately to engage in loving transcendental service of the Supreme Lord, Krishna consciousness. Nonetheless, there is a mystery about all these different activities of sacrifice, and one should know this mystery. Sacrifices sometimes take different forms according to the particular faith of the performer. When one's faith reaches the stage of transcendental knowledge, the performer of sacrifices should be considered more advanced than those who simply sacrifice material possessions without such knowledge. For without attainment of knowledge, sacrifices remain on the material platform and bestow no spiritual benefit. In other words, without faith, then, as Krishna says, one doesn't get liberation, no param gatim. That means the supreme destination, nashukam, no param gatim. Acharana purusha dharmasyasha parantapa aprapya mam nibartante ritu samsara vartmani. Then one simply returns to birth and death in this material world. So one has to do things deliberately because Krishna wants your love. He's not hankering for some material thing. But you can use material things in Krishna's service, but they need to be done in the spirit of devotion. As Krishna says in the Gita, Patram Pashpum Plam Toyam, Yomivakta Prayachati. The Krishna will accept a leaf, a fruit, a little water, if it's done in love and devotion. So that's the key. To do something to try to please Krishna, and then Krishna accepts. I mean, even there's that story about one devotee who was so immersed in love of Krishna that while he was preparing a banana to offer to Krishna, he threw away the banana and offered the peel to Krishna. And Krishna was happy because it was offered in devotion. Real knowledge culminates in Krishna consciousness, the highest stage of transcendental knowledge. Without the elevation of knowledge, sacrifices are simply material activities. When, however, they are elevated to the level of transcendental knowledge, all such activities enter onto the spiritual platform. So, depending on differences in consciousness, sacrificial activities are sometimes called karma kanda, fruitive activities. Karma kanda, let me explain what that is. That means activities to get you something for yourself. Karma kanda activities. And sometimes jnana kanda, that you want to get knowledge, and sometimes jnana kanda is understood as the process of liberation. So that's better. That's not the highest. The karma kanda and jnana kanda sections of the Vedas are not the highest sections. The highest section is called upasana kanda, which is the kanda, or the process of bhakti. Because when you have bhakti, you automatically get new knowledge. You automatically get detachment from this world. There's a verse in the Bhagavatam. What is that? Vasudeve Bhagavati Bhakti Yoga Prayojita Janayati Asu Vairagyam Jnanam Cha Yada Hoitukam. When one serves Krishna with love, Vasudeva Bhagavati Bhakti Yoga, engages in Bhakti Yoga. And Janayati Asu Vairagyam, one gets Vairagyam, or Vairagya, which is detachment from this world, and Jnana Cha Yada Hoitukam, one gets causeless knowledge. In other words, without even studying, doesn't say you don't have to study or you shouldn't study, but without even studying, one gets everything revealed to him, as Krishna says, although in the 10th chapter of the Gita, another verse, Tesham Satadiyuktanam, this is one of the real key verses in the Gita. Tesham Satadiyuktanam Bhajatam Pritipurvakam Dadami Buddhiyogam Tam Yenamam Upayanti Te. To those who worship me with love, then I give them the understanding by which they can come to me. Very important. That's one of the nutshell verses of the Bhagavad Gita. So, the example of that, let me give you an example in Lord Chaitanya's pastimes. Once upon a time, about over 500 years ago, Lord Chaitanya was touring South India, and he came upon a gentleman who was reading the Bhagavad Gita, or attempting to read the Bhagavad Gita. People were laughing at him, and he was probably mispronouncing all the words. And he was in ecstasy, this devotee. He was in ecstasy. He was crying. And Lord Chaitanya said, "Why are you crying?" Now, normally, if someone's trying to read and they can't read, they may cry. And the man said, "I am crying because I am seeing and understanding how wonderful it is that Krishna became the chariot driver or servant of his devotee Arjuna." And so Lord Chaitanya inquired further, and the gentleman said, "My spiritual master told me to read the Bhagavad Gita every day, but I'm illiterate. Basically, I can't read, or I'm struggling just to read one word or one letter. What is that letter?" And people are laughing at me, but because I have firm faith in the spiritual master, I have firm faith in Krishna, then I'm seeing these things. And Lord Chaitanya said, "You are the real knower of the Bhagavad Gita." And this gentleman did not have one verse memorized. Not one verse memorized. Maybe he didn't even know how many chapters there were in the Bhagavad Gita. But still, he was the real knower, because he was absorbed in the ras between Krishna and Arjuna, and understanding the actual meaning of the Bhagavad Gita, which has to come through revelation. You can read the Bhagavad Gita and not understand it. Before I joined the Krishna conscious movement, I had read the Bhagavad Gita, not Prabhupada's Bhagavad Gita. I had read, I think it was Christopher Isherwood translation of the Bhagavad Gita in the university, and it didn't make sense to me. Didn't make any sense. Of course, it was translated by someone who was just a scholar, and he was not empowered to translate or to present the Bhagavad Gita to me or to anyone else. But after I read Srila Prabhupada's Bhagavad Gita and practiced Bhakti Yoga, then it's very easy to understand. Bhagavad Gita is a very simple book to understand. I mean, there's many intricate spiritual points or points about the material world in the Bhagavad Gita, but Krishna reveals it to you out of devotion. It's actually so easy if you love Krishna. Vedeshu durlabham, adurlabham atma bhaktam. The statement is there in the Brahma Samhita. You cannot understand things just by studying the Vedas, including the Gita. But adurlabham, it is easy if you become Krishna's devotee. And that means becoming a devotee of Krishna. So, anyway, so that's why you get automatic knowledge. And you should also read and study too. So, text 34, very important verse. Tadvidi pranit bhatena pariprasnena sevaya upadekshanti te jnanam jnaninas tattva darshanaha. Taught that knowledge of different sacrifices. Vidi, try to understand pranipatena by approaching a spiritual master. Pariprasnena, by submissive inquiries. Sevaya, by the rendering of service. Upadekshanti, they will initiate. Or they will bring you closer, they will initiate. Te, you, jnanam, into knowledge, jnanina, the self-realized tattva of the truth, darshanaha, seers. That means people who see the truth. So Prabhupada loved this verse. Just try to learn the truth by approaching a spiritual master, inquire from him submissively, and render service unto him. The self-realized souls can impart knowledge unto you because they have seen the truth. That means they've realized because of their devotion. They know what's true, because otherwise, a shruti, ana, vivina, according to the Mahabharata, that you can study the Vedas until you're, blue in the face or something like that, until you die, several births, but you will not understand the import or purport of the Vedas. Only by mahajanayena gata sapanta, by taking the dust literally, or following in the footsteps of a great devotee or great devotees. That's the only way of understanding the truth. Because the Vedas are just like, sometimes the Vedas are described like a pharmacy. Here's a good description. And there's so many different medicines and everything like that, and you don't know which medicine to take, therefore you have to approach a pharmacist. You can't just Google it. I mean, I've seen nowadays, there's this coronavirus going around, and people Google so many things. Oh, there's this cure, there's that cure. And you have to approach the authorized, medical person or authorized person who knows what they're talking about. Because right now there's people trying to make a lot of money selling cures to the coronavirus, or making their firm very popular. We have a cure. Chant Hare Krishna. No. Chant Hare Krishna, yes, will take you off the material platform. But if you have the coronavirus, go to see a doctor. Take the medicine. So, you can't think that just, if I chant Hare Krishna, the virus won't affect me. It doesn't work like that. One should be very cautious in this world. Padam padam yad vi padam natesham. There's actual danger at every step, and not just the virus. There's danger at every step from so many things. So many things. Other people, car accidents, earthquakes, tornadoes, hurricanes. I mean, you name it. Different diseases. You can't imagine. The body is a repository of diseases. Not only viruses, but bacteria, and so many things. Cancer, heart disease. What to speak of old age. Oh my God. That is bad. To be old. So not if you're Krishna conscious, of course. I mean, if I was not Krishna conscious, and I was the age I'm at now, I would be thinking, oh my God, what happened with my life? What did I do with my life? But now I can look back. I did so many things that were nice, and so many things I have looked forward to. I am looking forward to. Even in old age, it's not that I'm stopped from doing amazing spiritual things. Look at Prabhupada did. Prabhupada was 70 when he came to the Western world. And that's basically when everything started. the Krishna conscious movement started. Of course, Prabhupada was Krishna conscious his whole life, but that's when the action really started after 70. Sometimes devotees tell me, said, don't worry, you're in the Prabhupada years. Prabhupada years means after 70. Of course, I have not done anything amazing except learn how to operate a computer. So, Prabhupada's purport, the path of spiritual realization is undoubtedly difficult. The Lord therefore advises us to approach a bona fide spiritual master in the line of disciplic succession from the Lord himself. No one can be a bona fide spiritual master without following this principle of disciplic succession. In other words, you have to have a bona fide spiritual master. His spiritual master has to be bona fide, as we described before. This chain of spiritual masters, which ultimately comes from Krishna, has to be unbroken. And the chain is only as strong as the weakest link. Krishna, the Lord, is the original spiritual master. And a person in the disciplic succession can convey the message of the Lord as it is to his disciple. That's it. Prabhupada said, postman. Of course, Prabhupada used the expression post-peon. Now, you may not know what peon means. That means just like an ordinary worker. So the spiritual master, he doesn't think, hey, I'm Guru Dev. Bhakti Siddhanta Saraswati Thakur said, if one thinks he's Guru, he's Guru. It means a cow or an ass. The animal ass. So basically, one has to really understand, I'm just a peon. And the peon means just like an ordinary person, but Krishna has given me this service to convey this message. I'm still not the owner of anything. I'm not the owner of disciples. I'm not the owner of anything. Of this knowledge, I'm not whatever. My only business is just to deliver the message like a postman. No one can be spiritually realized by manufacturing his own process, as is the fashion of the foolish pretenders. Like heat yoga, turning up the temperature to 120 degrees Fahrenheit. A new process of yoga to become detached. The Bhagavatam, the 6th canto, 3rd chapter, text 19, says, Dharmam tu sakshat bhagavat pranitam. That means Dharma comes directly from the Lord. And Prabhupada translates that the path of religion is directly enunciated by the Lord. Therefore, mental speculation or dry arguments cannot help lead one to the right path, nor by independent study of books of knowledge can one progress in spiritual life. And this is where so many religions fall by the wayside. You have the original teachings of bona fide religions, and there are a lot of bona fide religions in the world. We should not be sectarian, but you have the original teachings given by the original preceptor. Let's say Jesus Christ, he's the original preceptor. Then, after that, you have people speculating about either what he said or what he meant when he said something. Like, for example, Krishna says, surrender unto me, think of me, become my devotee. People will say, well, he doesn't mean it. He means something different. I really know what he means. Even though he doesn't know how to express himself properly. When Krishna says, surrender unto me, give everything to me, I'm the Lord, like 100 times he uses the personal pronoun. You say, yeah, God doesn't know how really to express himself, how to write or speak. I know what he really means. So we find that in every religion, there are these theologians, philosophers, who just really transform the teachings of the original preceptor into something unrecognizable. That if you were, I hate to say this, but let's say if Lord Jesus were to appear today, he'd be hard-pressed to find a church that he could join. And also, if Krishna were to appear today, of course, Krishna's not going to join a temple. Krishna could find somebody, most of these other temples, the Hindu temples like that, he's really not going to go into. Because people change it so much for their own even pecuniary purposes, that means financial purposes. They change religion. People use the Bible. The devil uses the Bible. I mean, just like, for example, there was I always refer to these things, but there was a person who was definitely not an angel who just had a photo op with the Bible. I'm not even sure it was the Bible, but he said it was the Bible in front of a church. So here's the devil quotes scripture. And you could take things out of context, even in bona fide things or bona fide words of Krishna, you can take them out of context and misunderstand the whole import. So it's important to understand the context, and one has to approach a bona fide spiritual master to receive that knowledge. Such a spiritual master should be accepted in full surrender, and one should serve the spiritual master like a menial servant without false prestige. And that's what I'm doing with Prabhupada. Satisfaction of the self-realized spiritual master, the secret of advancement in spiritual life, inquiries and submission constitute the proper combination for spiritual understanding. Unless there's submission and service, inquiries from the learned spiritual master will not be effective. One must be able to pass the test of the spiritual master. When he sees the genuine desire of the disciple, the test is he just wants to see if you're actually interested in being Krishna conscious. Or if you just join the movement to eat prasadam. He automatically blesses the disciple with genuine spiritual understanding. In this verse, both blind following and absurd inquiries are condemned. Really important to understand that sentence, and I will repeat it. In this verse, both blind following and absurd inquiries are condemned. And Prabhupada explains what he means by it. Not only should one hear submissively from the spiritual master, but one must also get a clear understanding from him in submission and service and inquiries. It's in other words, sometimes they will be, spiritual master will test you by giving a particular instruction. He wants to see how you respond to that instruction. Like Prabhupada one time, this is a funny story, Prabhupada one time was asked by one of his disciples, Srila Prabhupada, I want to take sannyas. And then Prabhupada said, no, you should be married. And so the next day or the next few days, this gentleman, devotee, came back to Prabhupada and introduced Prabhupada to his fiancée. So Prabhupada was actually testing. If the devotee had insisted, then Prabhupada would have probably given him sannyas. Another story about Tamal Krishna Maharaj is that Tamal Krishna Maharaj really wanted to take sannyas from Prabhupada. And Prabhupada was sort of reluctant for a variety of reasons to give him sannyas at that particular juncture, because some of the devotees were not in favor of it for a variety of reasons, which I won't mention during the Bhagavad Gita class. And so, but Tamal Krishna Maharaj just sat outside of Prabhupada's room with his arm folded, didn't even come in, and showed his determination. And Prabhupada actually agreed with Tamal Krishna Maharaj and gave him sannyas. So, the relationship with the spiritual master is like a give and take. Of course, he takes and you give. No, no, it's sorry about that. I couldn't resist that joke. So, give and take means that you can inquire and you can ask for clarification, and then back and forth, back and forth. There has to be a bona fide or definite relationship. Relationship is two ways. Therefore, when the student is submissive and is always ready to render service, the reciprocation of knowledge and inquiries becomes perfect. Very important verse. Next verse. Yajjatva napunaramoham evam jayasi pandava yena bhutanya sheshani drakshasyat man yato mayi. Yat, which, yatva, knowing, na, never. Puna, again. Moham, to illusion. Evam, like this. Yes, you see, you shall go. Pandava, son of Pandu, yena, by which, Bhutani, living entities, Sheshani, all. Drakshasi, you will see, Atmani, in the Supreme Soul, Ata'u, or in other words, Ma'i, in me. Translation, having obtained real knowledge from a self-realized soul, you will never fall again into such illusion. What is the illusion? Thinking you're the body, thinking that you're white or black or any of those other things, or male or female. You'll just understand who you are. Because the opposite of illusion is reality. And reality is like the sunshine, it destroys darkness. For by this knowledge you will see that all living beings are but part of the Supreme, or in other words, that they are mine. So in other words, getting this knowledge from the spiritual master means you actually see everybody as part of Krishna, and everybody is your brother and sister, which Prabhupada said is first-class God consciousness. And if you don't see like that, you don't have first-class knowledge. You have not received the knowledge. If you're seeing some people as your people and some people as others, outsiders, then you really don't understand. If you're seeing someone who's educated as someone who you love, and someone who is not so educated, it's just like, who cares about that ordinary Prabhu? Prabhu means master. Ordinary kid or whatever. Then you and I have not understood ABCs of Krishna consciousness, what to speak of XYZs. You have to know your ABCs before you can do your XYZs. And ABC means this is ABC knowledge here. Basic, foundational knowledge. You cannot even think of trying to understand who you are in the spiritual world until you understand, until you see every living being. Of course, there's another verse, Vidya Vinaya Sampane Brahmani Govihastani Shunichayu Swopakicha Pandita Samadarjan. Learned Brahman sees all these different living entities, a dog eater, a Brahmin, etc., all equally, Samadarshi. And they're all part of Krishna, and they're all part of your family. If you're still in this family consciousness, then you got problems. So you really don't think about what is my rasa with Krishna as long as you're in this family consciousness. So we have to broaden our outlook. Not only all human beings, but all living entities. So purport, by Srila Prabhupada, the result of receiving knowledge from a self-realized soul, or one who knows things as they are, is learning that all living beings are parts and parcels of the Supreme Personality, God and Lord Shri Krishna. Again, parts and parcels is very specific language. Parts means, just to give an example, the hand is part of the body. Parcel means it also has its separate identity in the body. You understand? We do not have interchangeable senses. So I cannot eat with my hand, I cannot smell with my hand, I cannot see with my hand, I can touch with my hand. So that's a parcel. It has specific activities that it can execute. It's different from the rest of the body, but it's part of the body. In other words, it's like, this is your body. When you say, this is your body, this includes everything. But parts of the body have specific functions. So that's a rough metaphor to help us understand what our relationship is with Krishna and what our relationship is with everybody else, too. And everybody else is part of Krishna. It's like, here's one finger, there's me, there's you. Anyway, you get the idea. So the sense of an existence separate from Krishna is called Maya. Ma means not, and Ya means this. Some think that we have nothing to do with Krishna, that Krishna is only a great historical personality, and the Absolute is the impersonal Brahman. That is asinine to think that the Absolute is impersonal Brahman, because if the Absolute was impersonal Brahman, how did the variety come about? Something operated on the Absolute impersonal Brahman to make the variety. And that thing that operated must be more powerful than the absolute impersonal Brahman. So the absolute impersonal Brahman is not absolute. My God. Logical fallacy there by those people. Factually, as it's stated in the Bhagavad Gita, this impersonal Brahman is the personal effulgence of Krishna. Krishna, as the Supreme Personality of Godhead, is the cause of everything. In other words, person comes first, energy comes second. Like, I have my energy. I build things. I have this, you can see the microphone. There's my energy. What's Krishna's energy? Anyway, in the Brahma Samhita, it is clear to say that Krishna is the Supreme Personality of God, the cause of all causes. Even the millions of incarnations are only his different expansions. Similarly, the living entities are also expansions of Krishna. The Mayavadi philosophers, Mayavadi means, remember we said Maya is not, something that's illusion. So Mayavadi says that Krishna's existence is illusory, in other words, temporary. So the Mayavadi philosophers wrongly think that Krishna loses his own separate existence in his many expansions. That is crazy. This thought is material in nature. Because materially, let's say we have a lot of money and we start giving it out, we lose some of our money. The bank balance goes down. But Krishna is not like that. So many complete units come from Krishna, complete expansions, and he remains exactly the same. We have experienced in the material world that a thing which, when fragmentally distributed, loses its original identity. Right. So if you take apart a building, then the building loses its original identity, or loses its parts at least. But the Mayavad philosophers fail to understand that absolute means that 1 plus 1 is equal to 1, and 1 minus 1 is also equal to 1. That's a mystery. So in other words, Krishna is the supreme whole. If he expands unlimitedly and unlimited expansions, he's never changed. So 1 minus the 1 Krishna minus infinity is still the 1 Krishna. And 1 plus 1, which if you have Krishna and Balaram, they're still the same person. Because Krishna can appear in many places simultaneously, unlimited places simultaneously. That means at the same time. This is the case in the absolute world. Even in the absolute world, a devotee can be in many places simultaneously. In this world, we cannot be in many places simultaneously. You may say, well, you got your computer, you're in everyone's home now. So many people are watching us on the internet. So we got 27 people here, a lot of people on Facebook. So you are no, I'm not in all these places. It's like, because I'm doing the same thing in these places. It's like television expansions, basically, like the yogis do. They usually do about 9. I'm actually better than the yogis, so I'm doing not more than 9 expansions simultaneously right now. Pretty good, using the internet. So, but a pure devotee can be in more than one place, not unlimited places, but more than one place simultaneously. And that's shown in the Brihad Bhagavatamrita, where you have a Gopa Kumar, who's a devotee looking for his ultimate position in the spiritual realm. Gopa Kumar encounters Narada Muni in all these different locales, Vaikuntha planets, the material world, the local, and everywhere you find Narada Muni. And this is the opulence of a great devotee. The material world, we cannot even properly multitask. What do I mean by multitask? It means do 2 things simultaneously. Because what we do is time slice instead of multitask. What I mean time slice? Like if right now I was try to type some letters to different people while I am talking to you, you would hear long pauses between each sentence or each word. Because I'd be typing something, then looking up, saying, okay, yes, Krishna's gone, blah, blah, blah. and typing something, 1 or 2 words. And so it would be called time slicing, not multitasking. But in the spiritual realm, even a devotee can multitask many tasks simultaneously. For want of sufficient knowledge in the absolute science, we are now covered with illusion. And therefore, we think that we are separate from Krishna. Although we are separated parts of Krishna, we are nevertheless not different from him. Not different from him in quality, and not disconnected from him. But we are not him in the sense of big quantity. The bodily difference of the living entities is Maya, or not actual fact. We are all meant to satisfy Krishna. By Maya alone, Arjuna thought that the temporary bodily relationship with his kinsman was more important than his eternal spiritual relationship with Krishna. And we often think like that, the temporary relationships, because all these relationships in this world, they are temporary. A person's not going to be your mother in the next life, not going to be your father, wasn't your mother, wasn't your father. No way. Or your husband, or your wife, or your children, won't be like that in your next life. Wasn't like that in the past. Never will be like that in the future. We do have eternal relationships, that's with Krishna and with the spiritual master. These are eternal relationships. But all these other things, they're like a drop of water that's on a lotus leaf. Now, the reason that example is used, because a lotus leaf has a waxy covering. And when you put some water on something that has a waxy, oily covering, it beads up. It doesn't get absorbed. Like if you have some piece of cardboard that doesn't have a waxy covering, you put some water in, it gets absorbed. Right? So, these are the relationships. It's just like you take the leaf, the lotus leaf, or something with a waxy or oily covering, and turn it over, and it goes, bloop. That's the relationship. It's like will-o'-the-wisp, a soap bubble. You blow a soap bubble, it's so pretty. It has multi-colors in it. I remember when I was young, I would love to blow soap bubbles and chase them. And then it's gone. Life's a poor player that struts and frets upon the time and then is heard no more, according to the great devotee William Shakespeare. So anyway, the whole teaching of the Gita is targeted towards this end, that a living being, as Krishna's eternal servitor, cannot be separated from Krishna. And his sense of being an identity apart from Krishna is called Maya. It's not real. We are always with Krishna. The living entities just were in this virtual reality, the matrix. The living entities, as separate parts and parcel of the Supreme, have a purpose to fulfill. Having forgotten that purpose since time immemorial, they are situated in different bodies as men, animals, demigods, etc. Such bodily differences arise from forgetfulness of the transcendental service of the Lord. But when one is engaged in transcendental service through Krishna consciousness, one becomes at once liberated from this illusion. Don't we want to be liberated from illusion? One can, like the illusion one's under when there's an expert hypnotist. You are a dog. You are a dog. You are a dog. I am a dog. Bark, bark, bark. And like when a hypnotist wants to wake you up, says, okay, on the count of 10, you will open your eyes and be wide awake. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. Open your eyes, wide awake. You're with Krishna. One can acquire such pure knowledge only from a bona fide spiritual master and thereby avoid the delusion that the living entity is equal to Krishna. That would be insane to be equal to Krishna. Insane. Like you find people say, I'm God. We're all God. You're God. I'm God. And I say, God forbid. So perfect knowledge is that the Supreme Soul, Krishna, is the supreme shelter for all living entities. And giving up such shelter, the living entities are deluded by the material energy. That's us. Deluded. Mama Maya Durachya. Very difficult to get up. Imagining themselves to have a separate identity. I'm imagining. This is a dream. At night, we dream so many things. We may dream we're flying in the air. We may dream of gold mountain. We may dream, everybody has different types of dreams. But when you wake up, it's gone. Maybe the first few minutes you're thinking, boy, that was a nice dream, or it was a bad dream. But then you forget it in time. So many stupid dreams we have. So right now we are in of course not if we're Krishna conscious, but if we're not Krishna conscious, we're in a stupid dream that has no relationship to reality. Thus, under different standards of material identity, they become forgetful of Krishna. When, however, such deluded living entities become situated in Krishna consciousness, it is to be understood that they are on the path of liberation as confirmed in the Bhagavatam, 2nd canto, 10th chapter, text 6. Muktir itvanyata rupam swarupena vyavastatihi. So this really means, probably gives the translation, liberation means to be situated in one's constitutional position as an eternal servitor of Krishna, Krishna consciousness. Swarupena is an interesting word, swarupa. Swarupa means one's own form, one's own identity. Not only that I am an eternal servant of Krishna, but specifically what type of eternal servitor of Krishna in one of the different rasas we described before. That's what liberation means. In other words, I am in servitude relationship with Krishna, or I serve Krishna as Krishna's friend, or I serve Krishna as Krishna's parent or in a parental relationship, or I serve Krishna in the conjugal relationship, in a female form. So, this is the constitutional position. And that is realized after one goes through preliminary steps. And we mentioned one of those preliminary steps is to see everybody's part and parcel of Krishna. Until one actually comes to that point, you're not ready to think about what is my svarupa. You can think of the point that you're an eternal servant of Krishna, but what exactly eternal servitude you do in the spiritual realm, that has to be revealed later on. You're not ready. Just like a little child, probably gave the example of a little girl, sometimes may want a baby, but she's not old enough. She has to grow, become mature, go through puberty, and get married or a relationship, and then the child will come. But you can play in the meantime with a little dollhouse. So anyway, so we find that immature people, sometimes they play like that. They think, I'm this gopi or that gopi, or I'm a coward boy. But they haven't seen equally all living entities. They haven't come to the point of applying Chaitanya Mahaprabhu's surrendering principles. Accept everything favorable. Reject everything unfavorable. Understand that Krishna is always protecting you, always maintaining you. Maybe not up to the standard you would like, but what you need. Krishna gives what you need, not necessarily what you want, because wants are unlimited. Krishna gives you what you need. And then finally, to be meek and humble, and to have no separate interest other than the interest of the Lord. Meek and humble means you are not full of pride and obnoxious. We were just talking about that in class this morning, where you had this serpent whose name was Kaliya, who was full of pride. Actually, in his past life, he was a Brahmin who was full of pride too. So he carried this particular mentality from one lifetime to another. So that's the opposite of Krishna consciousness. Amanina manadena. One has to understand that they should not expect any respect, but give respect to all others. That's a secret in Krishna consciousness. So, on that happy note, we are ending at 35, and tomorrow is 36. So we will continue. Tomorrow here is Friday. Okay, and I'm not giving a Bhagavatam class tomorrow on Friday, or for some of you, tomorrow is actually today. Some of you in New Zealand, Fiji, and Australia, it's actually today. So, but on Saturday, I'll be giving the morning class in addition to the evening class. Or that means, for all of you, the evening class in Australia, New Zealand, Fiji on Saturday, because it's Bhaktivinoda Thakur's disappearance day and Gadadhar Pandit Goswami's disappearance day, a very important day. So I'll be speaking about those two personalities in Bhagavatam class, which will be not tomorrow or not today, for those of you there, but on Saturday, which is here in the East Coast, United States, and also Saturday, because it's in the morning, 6:30 in the morning, East Coast, United States, Europe, 6 hours later, that means 12:30 midday, and then for Australia, that means 8:30 in the morning. Sorry, in the evening. And for New Zealand and Fiji, that means 10:30 in the evening on Saturday. Okay. Other than that, and we'll still have the regular evening programs. Okay. So now we will take some questions. We have a few minutes left for questions. Let me unmute all you nice Vaishnavas. Give me 1 second so you can unmute yourselves. Okay, you are free to speak. So does anyone have any questions? Who has a question? I hear some.
Hare Krishna.
Sounds like Rishikesh.
Yes, Gurudev. Please accept our wishes, Gurudev. I just wanted to understand, Gurudev, that while I'm on path of this realization, this revelation has not come to me yet. How do I behave so that I don't hinder the path of liberation, path of the realization? Because I understand that everyone is part and parcel of Krishna, but sometimes this old samsara just comes in, So can you give me some tip as to how do I behave so that I don't, slow down my progress?
Well, you just have to you have to hear enough. Hold on a second. I want to maximize the speaker. Okay, you have to hear enough so that you're actually, let's say, so that you're remembering these things all day long. And you have to keep the association of devotees so the devotees remind you of these things all day long.
Okay.
So it takes practice. It takes practice before you're ready, because you asked the question about realizing spiritual identity the other day. But it takes practice. Yeah. We have to come to the point of being always in touch with our spiritual nature and the spiritual nature of others before we can understand what our spiritual identity is.
I see.
All right?
Yes, Gurudev. Thank you.
Okay. Thank you, Rishikesh. Who else has a question?
Hare Krishna, Gurudev.
Haribol. Good to see you.
Thank you. In relation to Hrishikesh Prabhu's question,
Yeah.
recently reading, I'm reading Madhurya Kadambini, and something came up in chanting the holy names. Right. Even though one, like Ajamil, for example, he lived a very sinful life, and then at the end of his death, at the end of his life, he called out to his son Narayana, and he was freed from basically going to the Yamadutas.
Yes.
So although he had a really sinful life, and also it talks about the anarthas that we have in this life, besides, unless we do really purify ourselves, and is it possible in one lifetime to reach a prema bhakti?
Yes.
Or it is?
Yes, of course. Ajamil did reach prema, but he had to undergo further, let's say, devotional activities and studies after he got saved from the Yamadutas. There's more to the story. That he got saved from the Yamadutas, and then his life was prolonged. Then he went to the holy place after that, engaged in devotional service, and then became perfect.
Okay.
So yeah, in this lifetime, Prabhupada actually said if we are able to continue following the rules and regulations for this whole life, Prabhupada guaranteed we're going back to Godhead.
Yeah.
So you have a guarantee.
Otherwise, we carry our anartas through to our next life.
Krishna will take care of that. If you fulfill Prabhupada's injunction, Krishna will take care of getting rid of the anarthas for you. But just to be steady your whole life, that's like 100-year guarantee. Krishna will come. Krishna says in the Gita, for those who are devoted to me, ananyas chintayanto mam yejanak paripasate, tesham nityapayuktamam yogakshema vahamyam. For those who were dedicated to me, I carry what they lack, and I preserve what they have.
Right.
Don't worry. Chant Hare Krishna and be happy.
Okay. Thank
Okay.
you.
Who else has a question?
Gurudev.
Uh-oh, Praneshwar again. Okay.
Yes. So
What's
actually
up?
my question is how to be submissive and do not have false ego. and
That's actually a good one. How to be submissive and not to have false ego.
yes, Gurudev.
Wow. Maybe you should tell me how to do it. Anyway, so, well, one has to understand oneself. Submission is understood or attained by understanding oneself to be a servant of the servant of a servant of the Lord. And false ego is gotten rid of by having the real ego. So once you have you have to have some ego. So once you have the real ego, the false ego naturally goes away. So you have to impress upon your consciousness who you are. I am a servant of Krishna. I'm a servant of my spiritual master. Then naturally, the false ego disappears. The false ego is only there because it's the absence of the real ego, or the covering of the real ego, to be more precise. So you're covering the real ego, and that's why you have the false ego. You understand? The real
Yes,
ego is
Gurudev.
there. So just bring out the real ego. I'm servant of Krishna. Just remind yourself every time the mind says, why the hell are all these things happening to me, you know? Me, 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 me. Then you just, sounds like an opera song. Me, 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 me. Anyway, then you just bring out Krishna. What does Krishna want? This is my identity. My identity is I'm supposed to do these things. You just have to keep reminding yourself of what your identity is. Okay, one more question from our devotees. Any other questions?
And Gurudev,
Uh-oh.
I have one more.
All right, one more question.
Is like we should not be multitasking. We have a time slicing.
Yeah.
So how to make the time slicing? Like
Write
generally
down
we
a-
say about yes.
Write down a schedule. I mean, sometimes we need to time slice anyway. I time slice whenever I'm talking to my mother, so I don't get bored to tears. You probably do the same thing when you're talking to your mother. Otherwise, you'll go crazy. Am I right?
Yes, Gurudev.
So time slicing is sometimes necessary and actually a good idea to avoid going crazy. But we are time slicing. We're not multitasking. We actually, time slicing. I'm not saying time slicing is a bad thing. It's just that we do it. The only point I was making is that we don't truly multitask. If you don't believe me, you can ask a psychologist about it. They'll tell you that very clearly. You don't truly multitask. You are, sometimes I make a joke that ladies are better able to multitask than men. or time sliced than men because they can be taking care of their baby, typing their email, cooking dinner, and talking on the phone simultaneously. Now, I guess ladies are transcendental, but I can't do that. If you ask me to do two things at one time, then both of them suffer as far as the concentration is concerned. And when I'm really concentrating on something, then I don't really hear anything else. I'm in the flow. You know, when you're in the flow, you don't pay attention to anything else. Someone else could be doing 1,000,001 things around you, and you don't pay attention. And usually to accomplish anything in this world, you have to really get in the flow. You understand? Absorption. To accomplish anything, you really have to be focused and absorbed in it when you're doing it to do it nicely. So that's my recommendation. Okay, we should end now because it's time.
I have
Uh-oh.
one question, Vijay Radhika.
Oh, Vijay Radhika. Okay, Hare Krishna.
Gurudev, Hare Krishna. You mentioned that implicit, blind obedience is wrong, is also not.
Yeah, that's what Prabhupada said. I was reading that in Prabhupada's purport, yeah.
I was wondering about that because sometimes we do blindly follow people who we respect. Is it wrong?
That's not good. We should know the reason for whatever we're doing, and we have a right to ask, what is the reason that I'm being asked to do this? Just like if I say to you, jump off the bridge, please don't do it. So blind following, Prabhupada didn't like blind followers. I mean, there's that typical story. I'm going to end with this. There's that story that Prabhupada remembrance. Once upon a time, devotees were walking with Prabhupada, I think it was Los Angeles. And as they were walking with Prabhupada, devotees saw some really big, nice cars like Rolls Royces or Mercedes. And Prabhupada said, our movement is progressing in the movement. We will have so many big cars like this. And the devotees said, Jai Prabhupada. And then Prabhupada walked, and they saw some really big buildings. Prabhupada said, our movement in the future will have so many big temples, big buildings. Everyone said, Jai